Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about losing your job. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, I got fired after 2 months at my first programming job. I had to learn a bunch of frameworks in just a week and complete the project. I was not given any good. I wasn't given good training, and the senior developers didn't have time to help me. What can I do next? Well, the horse, the IT horse just kicked you off, and now you can make the choice. Are you going to stop trying to ride it, or are you going to dust yourself off and get back up on the horse? Those are, like, I like to say that the only options anybody ever has at any point ever when something bad happens is, are you going to sit down and wait for things to change, or are you going to do something about it? And this I would suggest to you. I would emotionally and mentally deal with this in this from this perspective. You were put in a company where there was a misalignment between where you are and the needs that you have and what the company was able to provide to you. Now I know this is not something that sounds really fluffy, and I know a lot of people like to think that because that's what people assume many times, that well, if you can't cut it in a company, well then you're bad, you're an idiot, or you're not good at what you do, or so forth. And I mean, if you're a junior developer, just like, let's just walk through this. If you're a junior developer and you get fired after 2 months because you can't learn a framework and complete a project, and you're given no training or no nothing, there are a few factors there that I would argue the company is in control of. Now, I'm just hearing your side of the story, but let's assume that you are completely on the ball here. There are a few things that the company could have done differently. And the fact that they didn't do that differently, well, it still ends with them ejecting you and trying to find somebody else, because the choice for them is always going to be the same. Are we the sort of company who will try to invest in our people, or are we expecting them to be kind of self-reliant immediately? Because both of those strategies, you should know that they are both very common. Some companies don't want to train staff, they just try to hire people who know their shit, and some companies are willing to train their staff. And there's really no way for you to tell which type of company you're coming into, unless, of course, you have fairly high social skills and you're able to maneuver the interviewing process and get some insight. You can get like a vibe from things, and if you ask the right questions, you might be able to figure it out early on. But at the end of the day, it's always there's always an uncertainty, both from the company's perspective and from your perspective, because they're hiring you and they don't know if you're going to be able to survive in this environment. They just try to figure out if you seem to be someone who they can make some money from, and vice versa. This seems to be a nice place of work, and at the end of the day, you can only get to a certain point until you go, yeah, you know what? Let's try this thing out. Let's see what happens, and look at this as a mismatch. Look at it as a failed date. Look at it as a shitty product purchase. It's something where you tried to do your best. You tried to consider all the factors, but it didn't really work out. All right, that sucks. Let's go and do the next thing now. And the thing that I urge you to do is to really reflect now. Because every single place of work, regardless of if it's good or if it's bad, will have things that are worth taking with you, things that are worth thinking about, reflecting on. And you might find that right now the only thing you can really reflect on is that, oh, they're a bunch of douchebags and I hate them all. And in the future, you might realize that, you know what, there's actually more to it. Maybe there were a few things I could have done better. Maybe there were a few things that they systematically, I mean, that maybe they weren't bad people, maybe they were just stupid, or maybe they had a way of working that wasn't really sustainable. There are many things that, and that usually comes with a bit of maturity and perspective, that you might read and that you might learn from practically any situation. Because if two people go through the same experience, they're, depending on who they are and how they look at things, they might actually learn quite different things. They might look at things very differently, and you're not going to be the same person forever. You're going to get older, and you're going to get wiser, and you're going to change your perspective on things. But the key thing is to take the learnings with you. Try to reflect a bit, and then keep on moving. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you do get fired from a company because they didn't train you or because they had unreasonable expectations, I urge you to continue. I urge you to not let this be something that stops you from wanting to be a software developer, because everybody gets fired at some point, or everybody makes mistakes, everybody has failures. And the thing is, guys, every time you take a job, there is always an unknown. You don't know if the company is good definitively. You can just figure out as much as you can during the interview, and the company doesn't know if you're going to be able to cut it in their work environment, because they're just trying to figure out if you seem good enough. And then you do an experiment, and then you try it out, and if it doesn't work out, you go your separate ways. And each company will have a certain way of doing things, and you will be in a specific place in your experience and your knowledge and talent and all that stuff. And both of these things, they need to align for you to be able to work effectively in that company. And if neither side is able to be flexible enough to accommodate the other side and find a balance, then you have to move on. But you can't let that stop you from your end goal, because your end goal should be to be the best, to get to a point where you are the best programmer that you want to be as good as you want to be. And having a few failures along the road, that's part of that. That's part of the entire journey. Have a great day.